John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house.
The man so many have been waiting to hear from, former Boston police officer Brian Albert, took the stand Friday afternoon. He owned 34 Fairview Road when John O'Keefe died, and is one of 3 men the defense claims could have killed John in a fistfight, an alternate theory to the state's case that Karen Reed hit O'Keefe with her car. But Brian Albert says O'Keefe never came into his house that night.
Although I didn't know him well, I considered him to be a friend, and our relationship was very, very good.
The last 24 hours have featured testimony from several members of the Albert family. This family tree highlights how the witnesses are connected. Homeowners Brian and Nicole, Brian's brother Chris and his wife Julie, Nicole's sister Jen and husband Matt. The highlighted people here were at 34 Fairview at some point that night. Before Brian testified, his wife Nicole did. She talked about being woken up the next morning when her sister Jen stormed into her bedroom hysterical.
So she finally was like, well, John, remember John from last night at the waterfall? And I'm like, you know, what do you mean? How could he be outside?
The defense only had time Friday to cross-examine Nicole, claiming she lied and actually took calls from her sister that morning, asking about the family German Shepherd that was rehomed months after this incident, why the family later sold their home, and showing this video at the Waterfall bar, in which her husband Brian seems to spar with friend Brian Higgins.
My question was, is it unusual for you to see him sort of practice fighting?
I wouldn't call that practice fighting. I think they were just fooling around. And yeah, maybe I've seen him do that other times, but it was fooling around. They weren't practicing.
There truly was so much testimony today. And again, we heard about when exactly then 17-year-old Colin Albert was at that home. Now remember, the defense wants to point the finger away from Karen Reed and at 3 men potentially, Colin Albert, Brian Albert, and Brian Higgins as potential suspects. Brian Albert will be back on the stand for cross-examination first thing Monday morning. In Dedham, Kristina Rex, WBZ News.